Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and Godzilla vs. Kong was apparently a monster hit. But could it save the movie theater industry? That's the news this morning all over the trades. The numbers are in, and it was a smash theatrically. Well, for the pandemic, it was. On top of that, over the weekend, it was trending. The Continue the Monsterverse hashtag was all over. Several thousand hashtags. Look, it wasn't as big as Restoring the Snyderverse, I'll be honest. But it was big enough for a lot of people to notice. And the film has done so well that it even has upgraded AMC stock shares, seeing how confident people are in wanting to go back to the movie theaters. So let's break all this down. Obviously, I assume most of you have seen the film already. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but I'm curious which team you are. Tell me down in the comments below as we get to this. But let's break down whether you... I also want to know, did you see it in the theaters or on streaming? I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments as you're watching. All right, so Godzilla vs. Kong, box office and HBO Max hit. Will it shake up the future of moviegoing? Yes. Spoiler alert. Yes, it clearly is going to, because it seems like it did well on both HBO Max and in theaters, which is odd given the fact that you'd think people would just avoid the theaters since they could see it for $15 on HBO Max. However, given these numbers, it's not too shabby. 48.5 million in its first 5 days of theaters, the best showing by a landslide for a movie since the pandemic hit. So that there, I mean, again, there's not much competition here, and this isn't massive, but this is used to be a solid opening weekend back in the day. Nowadays, we expect 100, and higher nowadays for hits over the weekend to justify these costs. However, right now, an almost 50 million, that's pretty damn good for theaters, adding to the fact that it was also streaming on HBO Max. You got to keep that in mind. That's a big deal. So it was offered in HBO Max streaming, $15, as I said. Kind of hyper release that would seem impossible to pull off prior to the pandemic. However, today is the clearest indication yet that obviously things have changed for the movies and the way they're distributed, and what this will mean for the future of the movie industry. The fact that this movie is generating so much interest in theaters, despite an immediate streaming option, underlines the cultural power and meaning of going out to the movies as a communal event. People recognize that does not exist in the living room, says Sean Robbins, chief analysis of Box Office Pro. This isn't only a win for Godzilla vs. Kong. It's also a validation of the broader history and future of moviegoing. Look, I don't think they're wrong. I think this is proving the fact that you had two options, and people, given everything that's going on, chose to go out to the theaters to see it. Says a lot. I saw it both ways. I saw it early. I mean, I watched it streaming the morning it came out so I could review it for all you guys and talk about the sequel and what's coming. So make sure you check out my review to learn about that. But beyond that, I went to see it again this weekend with my kids, and I got to say, I felt very safe. It was very clean. People were spread out enough that that didn't bother me, and we had a blast watching it in the big screen with the monsters fighting. So look, I think this does really sort of prove that you can have a movie both ways. However, I still think it's insane that they're releasing it day and date. I still think you could have a big, huge theatrical month-long opening, which would have probably had even higher numbers in theory. Maybe not, since the theaters were sort of closed. They weren't full capacity yet. However, it does seem odd to me that Black Widow, etc., are going to do day and date on Disney Plus, even for $30 and in theaters. I don't understand, and I'm curious your thoughts. Look, I understand the appeal of going to streaming sooner, but why not give it a few weeks? Give it 4 weeks in the theaters. Get the money from the people who want to see it right away. That's how it's always been. And then be the exclusive home for the streaming. Like, now it's available on streaming. You can get it now. The reason why is because they don't want to do two marketing budgets. They're trying to save the money on the marketing, so now this way they can market it both ways. See it in theaters or HBO Max. See it in Disney Plus or in theaters. They want to do one marketing cost rather than justify two marketing costs, which does make sense. However, I don't know, it just feels like you would still make way more money doing it theatrically longer exclusively than having it streaming. Although, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will just be like, well, I'll just wait the 4 weeks. So why not just put it on at the same time? It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out when we get more examples of this moving forward, because there will be movies coming out theatrically. Quiet Place 2, Top Gun, Fast Furious 9. Those are going to be coming straight to theaters without a streaming window for the first little bit. So it'll be those will be our first real examples to know, how is this finally picking up? Are we back to business? Are things finally coming back to normal? Fingers crossed. But so yeah, again, even they're here, it's difficult to draw conclusions without a lack of transparency from the streaming statistics. Did the simultaneous release of HBO Max curb box office revenue or limit streams? Can streaming and theatrical exist simultaneously and harmoniously, selling both movie tickets and subscriptions? Maybe a knowable, at least until Hollywood companies find a way to compare their viewing metrics. And this is imperative. These studios do need to release some of this data because it'll help each other. That way they can all sort of know, well, how did yours do? And maybe some of them are doing it behind the scenes, like, all right, top level executives are meeting, or I'll show you our Godzilla numbers if you show us your, whatever, Disney Black Widow numbers. You would think it would be very beneficial for both of them to grow to sort of see, all right, well, how much did you do? At the same time, do you want to give that data to your competitor? Right now, they can hold all these views close to the vest. Netflix doesn't have to ever reveal anything, and they never do. So we never really know if it's good or bad. And that comes with a blessing and a curse. It comes with a blessing in that they can get celebrities probably cheaper in success, but in failures, it seems like they have to overpay for things that didn't perform. And then how do you prove it, right? That's the difference between box office. Box office bonuses come to talent when something does well, because you can see if it did well based off of the ticket receipts. The tentpole larger viewing audience than any other film or show on HBO Max since launch. So it did beat Snyder Cut. It beat Wonder Woman 84 by that. It beat everything that HBO Max has released so far, which hasn't been a lot. And I don't think that's, aside from some Snyder fans, I don't think that should surprise anybody. This was a huge cinematic experience that I feel like, no one had seen yet. I know it's a different version, but whatever. To me, I always called this was going to happen, and this only confirms the fact. But they don't know. They won't tell us how much. And so we don't really know yet. And like they said, Little Things was immediately shot up to number one, is what they said last time. Although they gave no information for Tom and Jerry or Judas and the Black Messiah. Clearly those didn't do as well to the studio's recent releases, but I doubt either of those would have done huge theatrically only either. So it is what it is. So they're focusing on the positive, though, with all these box office people, because they want the box office to come back. And it said its day and date model will be unique to 2021. They're changing it in 2022. As we know, movies will finally, in Warner Brothers slate, will come out in theaters for 45 days before they go over to HBO Max. So all of this is very interesting. Big movies are back with our kaiju-sized opening. And this movie, which cost $165 million to produce, it's obviously helpful because it shows they can make some of their money back theatrically while still pressing for the subscribers in HBO Max, which is what they really want right now. All the studios are focused on getting those subscriber level numbers up. So we're all learning as we go. Studios are experimenting and figuring out how to best reach consumers during the pandemic, says Jeff of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers believes in the defined theatrical window, so they're going to continue to do that. But as I said, there we go. Quiet Place 2, Top Gun Maverick, Fast and the Furious 9, all will be in theaters before going to their digital outputs. But Disney, however, no. Disney is doing Cruella and then later Black Widow for the $30 fee in addition to being theaters. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they know now between Raya and what was the other one? Why am I drawing a blank? Mulan. Both of those, they clearly got data already to show what works. Mulan was in some theaters. Raya was in more theaters. They'll know, especially by the time Cruella comes out. I wonder if they adjust their plan with Black Widow and why they pushed it, because they could easily just say, you know what, it's going to come to Disney Max Disney Plus later. Sign up now to get alerted or something. I'm shocked they don't do that to try and get more theatrical money, since Black Widow had to cost a fortune. So to put that for the Disney Premium is crazy, but at the same time, I think they realize they can no longer delaying it. It's becoming stale on the shelf. Plus, what's interesting here is I saw this tweet out there, and I believe this. He worked for Hollywood Reporter, and so this got a lot of pickup. But just talked to a Pixar friend who says Luca and Soul moves to Disney Plus have been demoralizing for employees. Forget theaters; we're not even good enough for an upcharge. And what they're talking about is Luca, just like Soul, is being billed as a Disney Plus exclusive, and you don't have to pay $30 for it. And apparently, I guess that helped. Soul did really well over the holidays. And so they want to do a similar thing with Luca, but because it's sort of finally the two original Pixar movies are getting shafted, and not unlike Raya, which they charged for. Part of me wonders if, the Raya money must not have been good enough. They must not be making enough, and they want to make sure people actually see the film if they're going to go exclusive. Is what I imagine this means. But for the optics of people who are watching the headlines, I can see why Pixar is like sort of bummed. People work on these films like crazy, and then it's like, oh, by the way, you're You're going straight to Disney Plus for $30. Oh, lovely. And they don't even get to go in 30. And they don't even, from what I'm told, Luca will not get a theatrical release. No, Luca's going straight to Disney Plus for free, which you'd think is good. More people could see it because they have Disney Plus. But for the Pixar employees, they feel like it's cheapening their movies, is what they're feeling like. And honestly, I can see where they're coming from. It does feel like it's going straight to DVD. Like, hey, you didn't get a theatrical window. Even though this summer there will be theaters open, and Raya got it, you guys won't, because we need an exclusive offering in the summer for Disney Plus, and we don't have anything else. So sorry, you guys get to get over there. And so it's an interesting thing that's happening. The industry is, this next couple years are going to be figuring that stuff out, because even as theaters are back open, there's no doubt these studios are going to continue to take movies that were supposed to be theatrical and ultimately dump them on their streaming services. And that's going to be a interesting thing too, because it's going to set a precedent, right? It's like, it's like this old days of Disney when they did straight to DVD sequels. Like, you knew those weren't as good as the original. Kids could, sometimes didn't really care. But that's what it feels like. We got to be careful of these streaming services, of actually putting quality on the streaming services, not just dumping all the rejects, if you will. And it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I'm curious though, what do you guys think of this? Did you see the Monsterverse? Do you want it to continue like the trending topic? Tell me down below. And did you see it in theaters, or did you wait on streaming, or did you not watch it? Tell me down in the comments below. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do. And thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for more coverage all day today throughout the week, and catch us live Tuesdays and Thursdays here on Popcorn Planet.